we're all aware of what's coming. The deadline is on July 31st. I think it's 3:00 in the afternoon. It's right in the middle of our show, I believe. I'm not sure about the time. You have to double check me on that one.
It'll be a fun day.
It's got the potential to be a franchise altering day for the Diamondbacks, potentially, depending on how this goes and where they are in the standings and what Mike Hazen decides to do. We all know, Mitch, you and I know full well, the four names. It would have been five if Shelby hadn't gotten hurt, but the four names that are in the conversation, it's Eugenio Suarez, it's Josh Naylor, it's Zack Gallen, it's Merrill Kelly. Let's start with the pitchers, and let's start with what Ken Rosenthal had to say today on the Foul Territory broadcast when he said, if the Diamondbacks decide they're sellers, only one of those starters are going to go.
If they end up trading one of the starters, and it would be one from what I understand, they would not trade both because then they'd have a difficult time getting through the season. Gallen, better in his last two starts, probably would get more attention than Kelly, who is older, 36. Granted, it's a rental, and he's a very consistent pitcher, but Gallen is the sexier name. In that case, yes, he'd be in high demand, and rightly so. He's Zack Gallen. He's been a Cy Young finalist. Merrill Kelly, though, is interesting, and I didn't know this until somebody pointed it out to me yesterday. He's 36, and in his last start against the Padres, he threw 4 of the 5 hardest pitches of his career. So his stuff is intact, maybe even ticking upward, even as he gets older.
I appreciate Ken doing a nice sell job for Merrill, but you can't have him. I wouldn't allow any team to take him from us.
You're not allowed.
But from an outer perspective,
go fish.
Ken's point is important, not the part in specific about they would only sell one, but I do think it is important to note that they would probably only sell one if they did, because quite frankly, they've lost all of the depth that they had at the beginning of the year to this point. What I'm getting at is Zack is the sexier name because he is younger and because there is the idea that, oh, he's looked a lot better in a while, and he's still a moldable asset at this point in his career. Whereas Merrill, he only started his major league career truly only a few years ago, but he had already started late. He had spent a lot of time in Korea.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would get more for Gallen than they would for Kelly. I just feel like the market would be bigger for Gallen than it would be for Kelly, but it's not a knock on one or the other.
It's funny. Okay, first of all, I props to Rosenthal for pointing out what now kind of feels like the obvious thing, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't thinking much about whether they would only trade one of them, but it does make sense. They can't just completely, decapitate their pitching rotation in the name of the trade deadline. They have to keep somebody
We're
around.
out of ammo, sir.
Yeah, so no, they can't do that. So yes, that does make sense now that he frames it that way. I don't know, man. Like I don't. If the question is, pardon me, which one brings the better return? I think it is almost solely dependent on the next 2 starts Zack Gallen makes. I hate to make it so fine-tuned, but I really think it's not like if he's turned a corner, if the guy he was in the last 2 starts is the guy who's going to be, then yes, I would agree. He's the sexier name. He'll get you more in return. But I would bet there's still some kind of waiting around baseball to see, okay, is he that guy? Let's see how his start goes tomorrow against the Angels, right? Tomorrow against the Angels.
Yeah.
Let's see how I would imagine he'd be in line to start the opener or game 2 against the St. Louis Cardinals.
They'd probably reset him for St. Louis, and then he would also get Houston.
Well, let's see how, he would make at least 3 starts before the deadline. But I think you'd use the first 2 of those to go, let's make sure this is actually who he's going to be. Because Merrill, just say what you want about his age or whatever. Man, he is steady, Eddie, consistent, reliable, bulldog guy. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Zack. I think you actually need a little more evidence to know that he's turned the corner before you say he's the sexier candidate who's going to get you more in a return.
And I just wonder, because Merrill Kelly doesn't hold the same weight that like a Max Scherzer or a Justin Verlander did when the Mets traded them a couple of years ago. The other part of that is those guys were around the same age that Merrill is now when they got traded a few years ago. But it's just Merrill doesn't have that mainstay ability to bring in a top prospect. And he doesn't have a hefty contract either that a team would be willing to eat in order to get a better prospect, right? Like they traded Max Scherzer to get Luis Angel Acuna out of Texas, and I can't remember who they got back from Houston to send Verlander away, but they ate a majority of those contracts to get better prospects. I just don't know if Merrill has that same pull because he doesn't have the mainstay name that a lot of people across the league associate with. And he doesn't have like a hefty contract that the Diamondbacks would have to eat much of either.
Something else that Rosenthal said, and this is something I very much believe as well, just listening to Mike when he was on with Wolf and Luke on Wednesday. Mike Hazen doesn't want to do this.
They have a couple of potential free agents who are going to attract attention if the Diamondbacks want to move. And that's still an open question. They have all of these bullpen injuries, all of these rotation injuries. It seems like it's a star-crossed season for them, and it's not going to go the way they want it to go. But Mike Hazen, their general manager, has been pretty adamant about saying, I want to buy, I do not want to sell. They have never rebuilt under Hazen. It's just not something he is comfortable doing.
Now, at some point, the reality rubber meets the road, right? And you go, it doesn't matter. You are what you are. This is who your team is. But that's why I've believed all along that if Mike does get to that crossroads moment where he says, I don't have a choice, this is what we've got to do, I don't think any trade will be made on the idea of punting on next year. I really don't. I think every trade will be made with the idea of a quick turnaround, guys who are really, really close, if not already there in the majors, guys I can control, guys I've got, under the budget through arbitration or whatever. I do not see Mike Hazen willingly plunging into a deep rebuild of, I'm going to take these 4 guys, I'm going to move 3 of them, and I'm going to get a bunch of high A prospects with a lot of upside. I just don't think he would do. Not when you've come this close like they have the couple of years. He's just too competitive for that.
He's also not succeeded in any of the sells that he's done in his Diamondbacks tenure. Like, if we're being honest, the 7 guys that he got back for Zack Greinke and Paul Goldschmidt are no longer on this team. And Carson Kelly had a great first half of the season so far with the Cubs. Luke Weaver has become a mainstay in the Yankees bullpen. None of the guys that they got back from the Astros really did much. Josh Rojas, nice guy, but didn't really amount to anything. Seth Beer had one moment in his entire Diamondbacks career, and now I don't even know what team he's on or even if he's affiliated with baseball right now. Like, it's been a rough sled for Mike Hazen when it comes to trying to get good value back for some of these guys, even the smaller trades. Like, Eduardo Escobar brought back Cooper Hummel, and he's already on his 3rd team since. David Peralta got them a very young catcher who is, as far as I know, years away from even getting close to the major leagues. It's not in his nature, and it's not been a successful asset that Mike Hazen has utilized either.
Much better buying when it comes to trades. Much better when it comes to the buy, which is why I think even a sell will be almost a buy in disguise. Like it'll be a thinly camouflaged buy, even though it's going to look like a sell. I really think that's how he's going to play it.
I don't have intel, but given that the Yankees get talked about a lot as a team that could pursue Diamondbacks assets, I don't know how much or too much of a sell it would be to say, here, take Eugenio Suarez, one of Merrill Kelly and Zack Gallen, and give us Spencer Jones, who's their number 2 prospect in their organization. Dude hits tanks. He is tall, mean, fighting machine, however you want to phrase it. He might be a worthy return, but I wonder if that price is a little too expensive to offer the Yankees for one guy.
Jeff Passan has suggested Suarez to the Yankees. He suggested Naylor to the Mariners. He suggested Zack Gallen to the Mets. He suggested Merrill Kelly to the San Francisco Giants. You throw a rock in the air, you'll hit 10 different potential trade ideas for what the Diamondbacks could do at the deadline. They are all very much out there.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.